Today, our topic of discussion is the dangers of sitting. So, today's topic, maybe not one that people will often think is a very critical topic. I certainly didn't think there was anything wrong with sitting or spending a lot of time sitting. And I do actually spend a huge portion of my time sitting because most of my work is done in front of a computer. So to give you a little bit about background of myself, I spent the first 10 years or so of my career standing and running around because I was in hospitality and I was operational. And so certainly at that time in my life, sitting was definitely not at all a concern. In fact, I yearned for a job that involved jealous of my colleagues who did get to sit and had an admin job because I was just running around up in and out kitchens, out towards the restaurants and dealing with clients all the time. I was constantly on my feet. And little did I know that was exactly the kind of job that we are actually built to have as humans, and it's the kind of job that keeps us really, really healthy. Obviously, with technology and how more and more of our jobs are becoming more technology-based and more of the tasks that we can do can be completed by technology, many of our jobs are becoming desk-bound. And so 10 years ago, I shifted into a desk-bound job. I was very landed my dream job, but my dream job meant that I spent probably between 75 and 80% of my time sitting at a desk in front of a computer. And I was pretty happy. Now, fortunately for me, I am not very good at sitting. I think I might have, as a youngster, have had ADHD or something. I've never been able to sit still. So even though I had a desk-bound job, I was constantly getting up and down, going to speak to my colleagues. You know, I'm the one who wanders around and bothers everybody around me all the time. So, and that might not have been seen as a good thing, but it turned out that was also a very healthy thing to do. So we have very sedentary lives. I now, certainly in my new job, just working full-time on the Flying Phoenix, everything I do is online. Everything I do is sitting at a desk in front of a computer. And so I really do spend many, many hours of the day sitting. I do have I am quite active. I run and run probably around 45 minutes to an hour whenever I go out. I swim as well, and I do yoga. So by most people's measurement, I would be considered to have a relatively active lifestyle. So I'm doing around 45 minutes to an hour plus exercise about 4 or 5 days a week, sometimes even 6 days. So that would be considered a decently healthy lifestyle from an activity point of view. So I've always thought I had nothing to worry about. But it turns out that it doesn't matter if you are being really fit and healthy and are going to the gym every day or running or doing yoga, etc. If you are spending more than 6 hours of the day sitting, you are exposing yourself to serious health risks. Now, I'm not saying don't go run and do all the wonderful physical activity that you are doing. They have a lot of good that they are adding to your life, but they're not mitigating the risks of sitting. So today we are going to look a little bit at this subject and how we can overcome it, because the reality is most of us who are in a desk-bound job, we probably can't get out of it. I'm not going to be able to get away from being in front of a computer. It is the nature of my job. I love my job. I don't want to change my job. To do my job, that's what I need to do. And many of us are in that situation where that's not going to change. So what? Do we then need to live with the consequences of sitting? Or can we do something about it? So to give you a little bit of an idea of how bad sitting can be, sitting more than 6 hours a day increases the risk of death by up to 40%. As soon as you sit, electrical activity in the leg muscles shut down, your calorie burning drops to 1 per minute, and enzymes that break down fat drop by 90%. After 2 hours, good cholesterol drops by 20%. Insulin effectiveness drops by 24%, and your risk of diabetes rise. 3 hours of TV watching equals a 64% increase in the risk of death from heart disease. And each extra hour after that increases the risk by a further 11%. Physical inactivity is the fourth leading factor of global immortality. There are 3.2 million deaths per year that are related to physical inactivity. I think those statistics are startling. And it's no wonder that people are referring to sitting as the new smoking, because the risks are huge. The difference is that smoking, you have a choice. But for many of us, choice with sitting. We may need to sit at a desk job every day, whether we like it or not. So what do we do? Now, some of you may have heard that one of the things that people have thought could mitigate sitting is to do your job standing. And over the last few years, the idea of the standing desk has become quite popular. If you don't have a standing desk, you can buy special stands that you can place on your regular desk in order to elevate your laptop so that you can work from a standing position. And this seemed to have been the perfect solution to overcome the challenges of sitting. But we have since learned that while it is slightly better than sitting, it doesn't actually resolve the problem. Because the problem isn't only the sitting, but it's the lack of movement. So if we are just standing, yes, it's slightly better, but it's not good enough. So unless you're standing and you are actually moving on the spot, or your desk is situated over a treadmill, or you are doing something to be constantly moving, standing isn't really resolving the problem. So what do we do? So the first thing to look at is you want to try and walk around every 30 minutes. So if you have a desk-bound job, 30 minutes, get up from your desk and do a walk around. It doesn't need to be a long walk. This could be a walk to go and make a cup of coffee. You can make a walk around your office area, maybe go and have a chat with someone, etc. Now, this is going to take a little bit of planning. Most of us don't take breaks every 30 minutes, and probably most of our bosses would have an issue with that. So try to see if you can plan around it. So for myself, I work most of the time in a co-working space. So that is a space with a lot of other people who work online and who work for themselves like me, who use it as an office space. And I try to make a point that every 30 minutes I actually get up and do a walk around. And in that time, I plan something to do so that I'm still productive, because the time is money for me. So I might use it to go make a cup of and then go have a cup of coffee. And instead of going to my desk like I would have done in the past, I will maybe go to the garden, go stand in the garden, walk a bit around while I drink my coffee. If I have to make a phone call, so I try to look at tasks that don't have to be done at my desk. So one of the things that I might do is I will decide to walk and talk. So if I have to make a phone call, And sometimes also I do Skype calls, and maybe the Skype call doesn't necessitate that I have to be at my laptop. I can make it from my phone. Then I will get up from my desk and walk while I talk to help to mitigate that. In order to remind myself to get up every 30 minutes, there are some fantastic apps available. And there's a number of them with the same name, so I'm not really able to tell you right now which, but they got the name Stand Up. There is a Android version, or there's 2 or 3 different versions of the Android one, and there's also an iOS version. And basically it's an app that is able to remind you every 30 minutes that it's time to wake to stand up. And also it will measure how many times you are actually standing during the day and how often you sit. One of the other really great tools to have is if you have a fitness watch. I have a Polar M400, I think that's what it's called. Yes, an M400. It's an older watch. I've had it about 2 or 3 years, so it's not a very new model. Yet it's able to tell me exactly how long I'm sitting or not sitting. I can download a graph, and it also tells me, beeps if I've been sitting too long, and tells me it's time to get up and move. So if mine being an older watch does that, I'm sure that all the new watches definitely do that. When I had a Jawbone Up, it also had the facility to tell me exactly when I was sitting and would remind me to move. So if you have that, and many of us who are running or go to gym and so on will own fitness watches, those definitely are great tools to remind you to stand up and walk around. Now, sometimes that's not an option. Now you can't walk around, especially if you're driving. You certainly can't stop every 30 minutes at the side of the road, get out of the car, take a walk around, etc. That's not going to be suitable. Maybe you are working in an environment, maybe you're doing teamwork or something like that, that also doesn't allow you to just stand up and work, or you're under a heavy deadline, or etc. So the option to get up and stand around isn't really there. So one of the most important things that you want to do is you want to check your posture and make sure that you have the correct posture, because the posture in itself does do a little bit of mitigating to how we on the risks that it has for us. So you want to make sure that your back is relatively straight, but in a comfortable position. Your shoulders are down and slightly back. Your neck is perpendicular or in parallel to the floor, and to sit relaxed in that way. That will definitely help you. You don't want to be slouching forward or backwards. Both of them are not healthy, and you want to make sure that your core is relatively strong, because one of the challenges with sitting is that the gravity pulls our body down, and when it pulls us down, it creates pressure on our spine and on the vertebrae that are resting onto each other, as well as a whole bunch of pressure on our abdomen, and how it actually creates space for us to breathe properly. So also, if you're checking yourself and you're checking your breathing, when you are sitting correctly, it's much easier to breathe than if you are slouching forward or backwards, or even if you're sitting straight but your core isn't strong, so you're sort of like sitting in on yourself, see that your breathing is different. Now, if you don't have strong core muscles, you want to work at getting stronger core muscles. It's going to be much easier to sit up straight and correctly. And that will certainly help to mitigate a little bit. When you, if you have a good chair that you're sitting on, likewise your car seat, make sure that it's been set in a position supports a good posture. So don't have your car seat too far back or too far forward, but nicely straight up. If you have try to always have a good quality chair that you're sitting on when you're at your desk, something that supports your lower back properly and that you can adjust correctly to your body so that it can support you. The other thing that you want to do is the things that you can control, minimize them. So while we might not be able to control how much time we have to sit at work, we can certainly control how much time we sit in front of the TV or playing games and those kind of things. So those things that are within our control, don't add further burden on your body by spending even more time sitting in other areas of your life. So find other things to do with that time so that you are not adding even more stress and pressure on your body by sitting in front of the TV. And let's face it, there's a lot better ways that you can use your time than the TV. And I know for many of us, we use the TV as a means to relax. It's quite mindless, etc. But there are other things you can do. Go outside, play with your kids, maybe, playing around the house with your kids, practice a hobby, whatever it is. But again, don't go replace it with something else that involves sitting as well. And then the last thing that I want to add is view not sitting as an opportunity. So when I used to work for the previous company I worked for, we often used to train our managers. I was obviously quite involved in the leadership training within the workplace. One of the things we used to train with them was that we didn't want them to spend too much. Now, I'd like to say that we were forward thinking enough that the reason we didn't want them to spend in the office was because we were waiting, but that wasn't it. We didn't want them too much in the office because we felt that the space for a leader to be was on the floor with customers, engaging with them, as well as with our staff. So we really promoted that. And, that is the opportunity for anybody who's in a leadership role, is when you don't sit, you can really get out there and see what's really going on within your workspace, within your business. If you have staff, you can go and talk to them, see how they are. You can get to know your peers better. You can go out and engage with your customers. If you like me, where you work for yourself, I don't have staff, but because working space, it's an opportunity where I can network, I can get to know other people who are maybe doing something similar to me, and use that as the opportunity. And so essentially your time up from your desk can still be very valuable working time for yourself when you're away from your desk. So yes, that's my few thoughts on what to do if you are sitting a lot. So if there are any other questions, please feel free to pop them into the comments or in the comments bar, and I'll take a look at them. Jen has a comment. Let's take a look. These days, a lot of companies offer free ergonomic assessments. It's worth asking your manager about it if you haven't had your desk space evaluated. When I used to work at my desk in the newsroom for up to 11 hours a day, having this assessment really helped me to ensure that I was at least sitting in a healthy, friendly way. Yes, that is very important stage, and I couldn't understand where the back trouble was coming from. And I landed up going to my doctor and to a physiotherapist, and it took quite a long time for them to figure out exactly what was causing my back trouble. We thought maybe it was because I was carrying quite a heavy bag always, but it wasn't that. At one point we thought maybe it had to do with my driving. It wasn't that. But anyway, eventually it turned out it was my desk. Unfortunately, I didn't have the privilege to have an actual ergonomist come out and do the assessment for me. But my doctor did give me quite a few ideas on what to look at with my desk and what to adjust. And I landed up doing a few very simple adjustments on my desk, and my back pain was heavily relieved. And I started sitting with much better posture, and that certainly did a lot towards helping with the back pain, etc. Thank you, Jen, 100%. And these days, many, many more companies do actually offer those assessments. And if you don't have them, you can look online. There's a number of different resources that explain should look like, where your monitor should be in relation to yourself, eye level, how your legs should be positioned and height from the floor. Also things like where your arms should be positioned, how they operate with your mouse, etc., and where you're typing from. And all these things will impact how you sit. So yes, thank you so much, and thank you for joining me. And it was really great having you all here. And I look forward to speaking to you all again next week with our new topic. And this week, I guess the challenge for all of us is to sit a little straighter and not sit as long, and try to take those breaks in between and move around and make sure that we have a really healthy lifestyle. Thank you all. Have the most beautiful day. Goodbye.